5A will be to approve the minutes, and if we have to insert anything under 5B, we will. And then we will pick up 6 with the John first reading. So I had asked representatives of the North Carolina Department of Transportation if a representative would come and speak to us tonight, give us an update, answer our questions. And so we welcome Chief Deputy Secretary Hinton, and I appreciate you coming. If you would like to introduce anyone that you have with you or not.
Thank you. Yes, I am Nick Tennyson, Chief Deputy Secretary of NCDOT. There are a couple of folks here tonight. Shelley Blake, who is the General Counsel for the Department, is here. David Tyriar, who is our Chief Financial Officer. Mike Charbonnet, who is Deputy Secretary for Communications. There are a number of other NCDOT folks who are present. They are your normal attendees, so I won't go to that. I am going to need to get some help to get me to my presentation. And thank you again for inviting us to be here. We are here because more than a decade ago, nearly a decade ago, folks in these seats and in this room, or the room where the NPO met at the time, had recently experienced the idea of using a general purpose lane widening to deal with congestion, and they had seen that widening was consumed in a very short period of time. And they were looking, and we were all looking, statewide and nationwide, in fact, for a way to deal with the challenge of providing mobility, providing surface transportation, in an age when the cost of doing so and the challenges for doing so just get tougher and tougher, especially in high-growth urban areas, especially in areas that have any sort of topographic challenge, and especially in times when all of us seem to only be going one way car. So this presentation will start off with, just as you all know, we're talking about the I-77 Express Lanes project, 26-mile long project, intended to provide immediate and long-term traffic management. I want to make sure that I drive home the long-term aspect of this. This is the key differentiation of this project from past efforts. The entire 26-mile segment will be built within 3 years, and that is a dramatically improved delivery process over what would ordinarily be available under the standard design, wait for the next segment to be built, then design, then wait for the next segment to be funded, that we've experienced in the past. The other thing about this process, or this project, is it is designed to expand the number of choices available for drivers for this more reliable travel time. We believe that people need to have choices, and they need to shape their lives based on those choices. So the choice will be there to continue to use general purpose lanes. It will be available to go at no additional charge in the express lanes if you are traveling with 3 or more people, or if you're in a transit vehicle or on a motorcycle. Or you can choose to pay the express lanes for a trip or a portion of a trip, and I think that that's another thing that I would like to emphasize is that not everyone that uses this facility will go end to end on it. There will be a lot of trips that are for some segment of it, and so as we calculate the question of how much will tolls be for people, it will be for very different trips at very different times of day. Another thing that's important to keep in mind as we think about this project is just how much is being invested by the people of North Carolina, by the state, through NCDOT, into this region through this project. And the direct investment, $95 million, is referred to as the public finance amount, which, by the way, when this project was conceived, was set at $170 million. Beyond that, there's $145 million that will be coming from state transportation funds for bonus allocation for projects to be built in this not just on I-77, but available in the region, for a total of $240 million, plus $539 million that's in the form of private debt and equity. And that equity is not insignificant. It's $250 million. And that is a very major statement on the part of those investors that they believe that this will be a project that can be managed. I'm going to refer back to the timeline I started on, which was the 2007 initiation of the fast lane study, again, to focus on a long-term traffic management solution. All of you have gotten engaged in transportation management to the level, transportation planning to the level, to understand that you have to have a long time horizon, and furthermore, you have to have the expectation that it takes time to plan and execute any transportation project. This one began with that 2007 study. In May of 2010, after a number of years of study, the NPO, then JUMPO, unanimously endorsed hot lanes as a concept. And then in 2011, voting unanimously to add I-77 hot lanes project to the 10-year TIP. In 2011, NCDOT began work with the NPO staff, PCC, to refine the project, craft and refine it, which led in May. I'll offer up that this is actually my wedding anniversary, May 22nd. I apologize. So in any case, on that date, the unanimous vote to amend the long-range transportation plan to include those hot lanes through a public-private partnership. Preparing for that partnership, which is an arduous task and has resulted in about a 1,500-page contract, led to opening bids at the end of March. Centra, organized as the I-77 Mobility Partners, was announced as the apparent best value proposer. Commercial close was assigned 11 months ago, a year ago, basically. The commercial close agreement was signed with Centra, and that began the process of attempting to get the financing set for this project. There were two components of financing. One was a TIFIA loan of $189 million, and $100 million in private activity bonds. It's important to me to pause and reflect on the fact that that is a long process. It has been longer than we had hoped, but it came through successfully. And we have gotten to the point where financial close has been accomplished. On the issue of due diligence and transparency, the debt components of this project were both reviewed through the Local Government Commission to assess the risk of this project from a debt perspective for the state. As I said, the federal TIFIA Credit Council reviewed and approved this funding as a project that, based on their very severe conservative testing, would be one that would merit the risk of the funds from TIFIA. We've held a dozen public hearings, more than 40 times with key stakeholders. Those numbers are very conservative estimates of the numbers of times we've been in the area to talk about the project. And all the public documents, including bid proposals, have been posted on the NCDOT website. One of the things that has come up and been a significant issue is the question of the general purpose lane potential between exit 28 and 36. The shorthand reference to this is a no-compete clause. That is not an accurate shorthand. The contract specifically allows us to compete, but requires both partners to respect the potential impact on revenue if changes are made from the base case. So in other words, when NCDOT began to evaluate the project, and subsequently when those who were bidding evaluated the project, they had a set of circumstances on which they could base their review. How much traffic, what was their expectation of performance. That project, the general purpose lane project, is not in the STIP. It was not included. because it did not score high enough to be included in this bid. And in October of 2013, the MPO had added an amendment to the long-range transportation plan, which included that possible future widening, which was not included in the previous bidding documents, the original bidding documents. And so at that point, either, the choice that was before the state was either to allow bidders to modify their proposals, to require increased public funding, which I've already pointed out was originally estimated and then came in at a lower amount than we feared, or make it a potential compensating event under the contract. As I said, the change of the business case requires compensation. So that project was entered with a time horizon of 2040. And given both the questions as to its possibility for being built from the standpoint of how long in the future it was, potential environmental issues, potential for the public financing, does not seem to me to be, and did not seem and does not seem to the department to be, a good use of taxpayer dollars. Any future general purpose lane proposal, or frankly any widening, any project carried out by NCDOT has to go through the STI process. Should the LRTP project score high enough, then those items in the contract, the comprehensive agreement, would play out by allowing the developer, if that entity could prove a negative impact on revenue, to claim compensation. It's not an automatic question. It is not something that is as shrouded in the mists as trying to think out through models 40 years in the future, or 50 or 25 years in the future. It will be something that would be carried out and would be negotiated and evaluated once that project was built. As I said, final terms for any possible project are outlined in the bid contract posted to the website in January of last year. So, people have said, can we switch to a general purpose lanes project? To do so would require that we cancel the current project, and would put us in a position of having to enter what you know is a long and arduous task for any highway planning project. It isn't turning on a dime. The project would have to be scored, which would happen based on this next 2-year cycle that we're embarked on. Would be subject to the corridor spending limits during a 5-year period of programming. And as I said, we have to go through environmental reevaluation based on the impacts that might be shown. Just earlier, in July of 2014, we ran a hypothetical scoring of this overall project, and no segment of I-77 North scored high enough to fall within corridor cap limits, in other words, to be a higher scored project than segments south of Charlotte. If we canceled the contract anytime after the commercial close, it would cost the state $22 million. Having completed the financial close, we've estimated that there is a potential for these damages to exceed $100 million. Those would be made up of the costs that we would owe the contractor for work already completed, the damages that would be involved in refunding the bonds that had been issued, and any interest that we would pay on that, plus, as a termination for the convenience of the state, there are additional provisions for payment of the contract. Under the STI law, the region would lose that $145 million additional investment that was going to be gained from the carrying out of this project. And as far as the state's concerned, we would have to consider, and I think all of us should consider, all leaders in the state should consider the risk of damaging the potential for future P3 rail and transit projects. Delay is possible in the sense that it's possible to do a lot of things that are very difficult and have consequences. Again, there was the risk of delay costing this region $45 million of that $145 million in bonus amount. This law requires the cap on bonus amount to go from $200 million possible to $100 million possible as of July 1st. So it was important for us to get through the process of financial close to avoid that risk. We would also, as I pointed out, we owe interest accrued, and we would owe any damages for delay, including but not limited to construction cost changes, because those are not predictable, and because, in fact, this could lead to rebidding the base contract on which this project is based. Another question that's been asked is, why are we the only ones with this sort of funding mechanism? Well, it's not the only one. The Triangle Expressway, on which I drove this morning to avoid a congestion problem, Monroe Expressway, I-40 express lanes in the Triangle are in the STIP. The I-77 express rail lanes, complete 540 is a continuation of the Triangle Expressway. 45 express lanes, the Mid-Currituck Bridge is in the TIP. 74 express lanes in the I-77 South. The way that I presented this to you has attempted to be as concise and straightforward and serious as I can be. But let me just say that before I open this up for questions, this is an amazing accomplishment. We have delivered a project that basically meets the financial modeling from a year ago, that incurs no more public finance requirement than we were modeling a year ago, that thanks to diligent work on the part of a lot of people, will deliver the benefit that's been described. That is to say, this is a high-capacity project that will be delivered, we believe, in record time, and will deliver long-term, reliable transportation for this part of the region. As I said, I've got my serious face on, but I really think that all of us need to be pleased that we have gotten to the point of bringing to culmination the vision and the choice that was made by the people that started thinking about how are we going to use the scarce resource we have in both funds and in the land area to build projects to deliver mobility for our children and grandchildren. And this is the way it should be. So, Madam Chair, if there are questions.
Do any of the delegates have a question? Asked at this time. Brian?
Yeah, I have a few questions. I'm Brian from Davidson. I'm one of the few people, I think, who was here in 2010 when we first voted on this. I think, Sarah, you were here, maybe DeMont. Was anybody else part of this?
I was here.
Okay, there were a few others. And I remember we had a lot of conversation about this. There were lots of meetings, and I think we were all very excited about it because we all know we have, dwindling resources, and this was an opportunity for us to do just what you said. But I don't feel real good about it tonight. I mean, I wish I did. I wish I felt better because there just seemed to be so many questions surrounding it. And, I have seen other places where it's worked. I've talked with the folks in Houston, the part of the Charlotte Chamber, that I know it can work, but, we've just been riddled with all these questions. First we hear there's only one bidder. Well, when there's only one bidder and I'm involved in construction, that raises questions. Then, You know, we hear that this particular vendor has other projects that have failed. Well, that raises questions, but I'm not saying they can't be answered. Then we have the question about how much is it going to cost. Nobody seems to be able to answer it, although there's a study that said it could be up to $10. I know this is dynamic. I know it goes up as people drive, but $10 one way, that's $400 a month out of the meter. That's a problem. You know, and then, you know, this whole, the question about what you talked about today, about these, about being able to widen it. You know, we just have so much at stake here, and this is the first project that we're doing. And I want this to be great. I mean, all of us who live up in Lake Norman should be thrilled that we're getting wider. I mean, that's why we talked about this, right? And, you know, I mean, we're way down the road, and I don't think we're here to, I'm not certainly not here to stop anything. But I just hope that we, maybe this is going to be successful, and I hope it will be for the future, because we talked about doing this in all these other corridors. And I don't know if you can respond to any of these things that I brought up, but I think there are questions that we've had along the way that I think are good.
There were 4 potential proposers. Ultimately, given the public financing amount that was stipulated, the only one that felt they could meet that level was the successful bidder. Their failed projects to which you refer, you may add to this list if there are others you wanted to talk about, but there are 2 that have been described this way that I've heard about. One is the Indiana Toll Road. Just as with this project, the Indiana Toll Road was set up as a freestanding entity. It was originally a $6 billion project. The state of Indiana got $3.7, I believe, billion. The establishment of that project was at a time when interest rates were drastically different than they are today, and candidly, a lot of us thought the expansion was going to go on forever. Centra's entity could not succeed in making that project work. And so the lenders on the project took it back and sought another operator and put that out as an auction. And it went for $5.5 billion. So the change in value of the project, that's a meaningful amount of money, but none of that money came from citizens of Indiana in the sense of losing the 3.7 they were already using. None of it came from bondholders because they got their project back. And the organization that Centra set up took a hit. That's one of the things about this, is that hit was not taken by taxpayers trying to operate this facility. It was taken by private investors. The other one that has been listed as breaking news is a project that is not at all like this project. It is a state-funded road in Virginia. During the environmental review of that project, the permits were being sought, the review was being done, and the project that was ultimately approved was drastically smaller than the project that was initially contemplated. The Centra, its parent company actually, have been involved in being the contractor for that, or the developer for that project. Not like this, not a concessionaire. And when the state ultimately decided they didn't have the project they had before, they canceled the contract. It did not result from Ferrovial failing to perform. It resulted from the fact that the project drastically changed. How much will the toll be? You have put your finger on one of the challenges that we've had in terms of answering this question, because until people are actually using this toll facility and setting the pattern of how often they stay in the lane versus when they get back out of it, that just is not knowable. The maximums can be calculated, and the current year maximum, according to the bond document, would result in about a $14 round trip using the southbound peak and northbound peak. Could it be $10 one way? I believe that that's allowed, but when those toll rates are set, the option is still
Come on.
for people to go ahead and either use the lane or not use the lane based on the pricing. And finally, I have gotten to something where I couldn't read my writing. Was it liability? What was the last thing we asked about?
I just mentioned the penalties associated with you address that.
I need to write more clearly. I said that to you another time.
Well, again, this is going to be a model and a precedent for the other projects. I think we all want it to be a success for those of us that support it.
And to date, and we hope on a continuing basis, the first toll project in North Carolina has outperformed the traffic and revenue study on which it was based in the Triangle Expressway. So the thing that I think is happening is the attitude that people have about transportation is adjusting to a lot of changes in terms of everything from Uber to ride sharing to whether or not we all need a car. And I think that the future is going to hold some major change. But the downside risk on this project is held by investors, not by the state.
Okay, are there other questions? Come along with it.
I just have a question. As you know, I'm sure there's a pending lawsuit that's, what's DOT's stance on that, and how do you see that affecting the project moving forward?
I brought the general counsel tonight so that I could look over at her and see whether this, fundamentally, we have no comment on the lawsuit itself. It's a great system. People can bring an action in the courts. We're not participating in as few as we would like to of those actions, but we're vigorously defending what we believe is the position of the state in this action.
Okay, next, are you coming on next? You have Mike? Anyone?
I do, sure.
Okay.
I'm Ken Robertson. I'm one of the Iredell County Commissioners.
Yes, sir.
Almost every governmental body between Iredell County and Mecklenburg County has passed some resolution in some form that says, whoa, hold on a minute. Something's not right here, okay, in so many words. And kind of our stumbling block here is that this is an agreement for 50 years. And I don't know anybody that signs agreements for 50 years. I don't know anybody that does leases for 50 years, mortgages for 50 years, loans for 50 years. And we're being obligated for 50 years to basic, you can say that there are rules that allow us to build additional lanes, but that's like saying that I have the freedom to be the quarterback for the Panthers. Yeah, I do, but in reality, if we have these penalties, if we build general purpose lanes, we all know they're not going to get built, and we're talking 50 years. And you say that we can't get out of this contract because of all these penalties. Because I guess this contract has these rules that have all these penalties. And what the voters and the people that I report to, they want to know who wrote these rules that basically painted us in a corner so that at this stage of the game that y'all are saying, well, we have to go forward with it because we have all these rules that penalize us. Well, we want to know who wrote the rules. We'd like to know who wrote those rules and who came up with a 50-year agreement, because we always say we want to try to run government like a business, and but just 50 years is an awful long time to enter into an agreement that has so many unknowns as this. So to be succinct, my question is, who came up with 50 years and who agreed to these rules that basically paint us into this picture where we have no other option rather than to go along at this point?
Who came up with 50 years? If you look at the various P3s that are executed around the country, they are for term lengths of this type. This is to incentivize the private sector to risk capital, as Centra did on the Indiana toll road.
Sir, my question was not what was the time length of other states. My question was, in North Carolina, which North Carolinian said we're going to do 50 years?
The North Carolina Department of Transportation.
Who is the person in the North Carolina Department of Transportation that committed us to 50 years?
The North Carolina Department of Transportation, acting as the agency to negotiate the contract to make this P3 project happen, entered into this agreement based on the market conditions that allow a P3 to function. This is standard. This is a standard length of term. It is a standard set of business assumptions. And because I do not personally provide long-term infrastructure financing, does not mean that I don't know that somebody is out there calculating their yield and demanding that in order to save the state the funds it would save. So there have been people working on this project ever since 2007. The development of the contract began, as I said, around March of 2011. And the project has grown over that time. So to say who has made the decision, I have to tell you that I think the department just has to be, because this is the way it works, our department is responsible for the decision that was made.
But it seems like these rules are all meant to penalize us, and basically the Centra is guaranteed that we've said we are gonna make sure that there's enough congestion so that you can collect enough toll revenue to pay back the bondholders. I understand that they want some sort of a guarantee, but it just seems like we've entered into an agreement where we've looked after the safety, the financial interest of the contractor, and less after the public good for all the folks that while we are suffering through air quality issues and stuff, we're basically guaranteeing for 50 years that we're going to stay in non-attainment because we're going to have traffic jams on I-77, and that has a huge economic impact in this region. And that's why we're upset. Okay.
Next question? Any questions? Then, Mr. Secretary, I thank you for being here, and I appreciate the remarks you brought to us.
Thank you.
We have 10 citizens that have signed up to speak. And we provide basically 20 minutes for comments. You're limited to 3 minutes apiece. I will ask if what you are going to say has already been said, and you don't really think you can improve on that, then pass on. Thank you. The first person is Rob Kidwell. And if you'll state your name and address.
Thank you, Madam Chair, delegates. My name is Rob Kidwell, 7603 Rolling Meadows Lane, Huntersville, North Carolina. Huntersville resident, also Huntersville Town Commissioner. First of all, happy Mech-Deck Day. Huh? Kind of ironic, 240 years ago, a group of our forefathers said, we will not be held back, we will not be treated unfairly. Wrote it down, which, as many of you know, is considered treason back then. And they helped birth the very country we live in today. Many of them sacrificing their lives doing so. Appreciate that. It happened here in Charlotte. I said it's ironic because today we learned the NCDOT had the financial close on the toll roads. 240 years ago we stood and grasped for our freedoms. Today we gave our chance for free passage on roads away for the next 50 years. 4 towns, 2 counties, we asked for a slowdown. Something we have given Centra 3 times at no financial cost to them. There are partners who think they work with us. The NCDOT, the governor, they refuse. They do not listen to the leaders in this region and certainly ignore the citizens' request. Going forward, because that's where we have to go now. There are several toll projects, as we saw, that will impact the region and especially the city of Charlotte, including the closed lane on 485 that this group has allowed to remain unused. I ask that you look at each one carefully. I also ask 3 things. Is it legal? Is it fair? And is it consistent? It has to be all 3 for the residents you represent. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, delegates. Thank you for everyone.
Well, my name is Vince Weingarten. I'm president of the North Cross Master Association. I'm also a member of the White I-77 group. 10 years ago, the Committee of 21, Mr. Curran and a variety of other folks in this room had a number of choices. They came up with some great ideas. Tolling was one of them. They had some other ones that were very good as well. But they started us down this path 10 years ago, and I understand why they were looking for a solution. They had no money. There was no real hope of getting money, and this was one way to maybe solve the problem. The concept sounded good. There were great Reason Foundation, a variety of other great thinkers that came up with it. It sounded really like a great idea. I don't fault them for thinking about it, pushing forward, but at some point, this thing evolved from a good concept into a terrible application of a concept that just doesn't work. The numbers don't support it. I was hoping tonight to talk to you and follow up on the good work done by the towns that some of you represent, the county, the 2 counties that you represent, and talk to you about some of the other options that may be available. Washington is forced at this point to do something about this crisis. Will it happen before the end of the month when I think it's required to be done? Probably not, but it will happen soon. More money will be transferred in some form back to the state. Representative Torbert with House Bill 927. That House bill is, he's in Gastonia, by the way, and those folks over in that MPO were very successful in not getting toll lanes. But Representative Torbert has got a bill for the legislature that is looking to diversify the way we fund our roads. It's a good, I think it's a good start towards fixing the funding problem. He told me that it might generate up to $400 million more per year in revenue. Maybe not. Maybe it's only a couple $100 million. But it's an opportunity that we should have had the opportunity to look at for funding our roads here in Charlotte. The state recently addressed that same issue by changing the the gas tax computations. Well, that particular computation is initially a little lost, but at the end, I believe it's going to have a somewhat of a gain in revenue as well. Governor McCrory, $1.4 million in bond money. I tell you quite frankly, I will not vote for that because I'll be paying tolls or not. That was an opportunity. Senator Tillis and Senator Burke are offering to build a road from Raleigh to Norfolk. Where have we heard that before for the eastern part of the state? The bonus allocation mentioned by the NCDOT representative. $145 million. That sounds like a pretty good incentive. But what happened? $80 million is being taken from that $145 million and put right back into the tolling to make that a success. Why? Because they needed to elevate that junk bond into an investment grade bond, and that particular investment helped. Why didn't they do that as part of the original contract? Because it would have cost Centric too much.
Mr. Weingarten, you need to wrap up.
Thank you very much. Lastly, the financial close occurred today. I had hoped that you folks would have had a true debate on this issue and realized that 10 years ago, what was brought to us is very different than what you're seeing today. And that would have been wonderful for that conversation to occur. I think it shows a lack of respect for this body that the NCDOT signed this document at noon today and avoided that conversation. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Valley Wimack. Thank you for letting us speak tonight. With all due respect, what you heard from the NCDOT is what Stanford Business School calls FUD. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. We right now have the ability to stop this now. We don't have to go along with this. Also, we are able to put in general purpose lanes using Macquarie's current transportation funding model. We can walk away right now for a whole lot less than if we drag this out. And for them to race this through when they were scheduled to close it May 27th, and to do it last night because they knew we were all meeting, that is wrong. What I want to tell you is that people's voice has not been heard, but finally you're hearing from us. For 2.5 years, the public has been shut down from speaking, and those who have been speaking the facts and trying to warn the public, and you are representatives, we have been disrespected, marginalized, bullied, and lied to. This is not the American way. Tonight, I ask you to speak for the public and not the NCDOT, who do not represent us. 2 counties and 4 towns voted on resolutions to put the brakes on this project. What more proof do you need we don't want this? In the 1950s, my grandfather was a county supervisor for Santa Clara County. That was in California, who had to make some very difficult decisions for a highway connecting 2 major freeways in Palo Alto. He was in a fight like this for his citizens in his highway. Tonight, I'm wearing the earrings that were the cufflinks that he wore to meetings. I wore them for good luck, hoping that all of you would do the right thing and honor future generations. I want to know, what will your kids and grandkids think when they are spending $20 to $40 a day trying to get to school? When I got involved in this, I didn't plan on it. And I found out that my grandfather had been involved in a highway project, and so I thought I would Google his name. I was proud of what I found out that he did. And I just ask you, will your kids and grandkids be proud of this? Are you going to stand on the side of corporate boondoggle? Or are you going to stand on the side of we, the people? Thank you.
Yes, good evening. I came with some prepared notes tonight, but I'm just going to talk freelance after the presentation I heard earlier. Because, you know, I was in private industry for a long time, and I was responsible for making proposals to my boss. And if I ever came to a boss and told him, I want you to sign this 50-year contract with a vendor of ours, guaranteeing him profits for the next 50 years, for some reason he falls short, we're going to dump into our cash reserves and make them whole. And we're not going to ask any other competitors to bid on this contract because we want to make it a non-compete contract. And we're going to do it with a foreign company because we think any profits that are made should go to another foreign company or country. I can imagine what the outcome of that presentation would be. I would be asked to leave, and I cannot, for the life of me, understand how anybody in the North Carolina Department of Transportation could ever have the responsibility of getting a contract like this through. He wouldn't even divulge the name of the person that signed this. Well, the person that had to sign a contract that's going to allow us to have to relinquish $100 million to get out of the contract, even before the contract is started, that authority does not belong in the North Carolina Department of Transportation. I almost assure you, it had to be approved by somebody above the Department of Transportation. And it sure wasn't approved by none of them. And I have a problem, if you look at the whole purpose of these hot lanes, they're not going to end congestion in this area. They depend on congestion in order to move people into the hot lanes. And I talked with somebody that was attached to pushing these things through, and I said, how can we build this, or spend this much money to build lanes that are not going to end congestion? And he looked at me quite frankly and said, hot lanes are not about ending congestion. Then I heard the other story over here, so tolls may get up to $7. On I-85, the hot lanes in Atlanta, they just hit their record in April at $10.50. That lasted one day. The next day was $11, one way. So we've been deceived again. And when I listen to their technical expert up in Cornelius say the average toll is going to be $2, and over a 50-year period of time, they're going to collect $4 billion non-adjusted for inflation. I asked him afterwards, I said, how are you going to move 40 million cars a year down I-77? He looked at me like a deer in the headlights and said, you must be wrong in your figures. Well, do the math. $2 a car for 50 years and collecting $4 billion, that's 40 million cars a year. The busiest toll bridge in the United States is the George Washington. They have 23 toll lanes. They only move 49 million cars a year through those 23 toll lanes.
Mr. Privet, you need to wrap up.
Okay, but how can a technical expert for NCDOT come up with that? And then we're asked to trust them on their numbers because they know how to build highways. Well, we're being lied to again. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Dee Gilroy, and I teach Spanish at UNC Charlotte, and I'm the mother of 4 children. And I'd like to ask all of you, what is the legacy we want to give to our children? I'm going to go over 3 things that I find that are very important. I've been on the phone with Barcelona, Spain, because I speak Spanish, and I have in my hands a 37-page document by the anti-corruption attorney proving that the Ferrovial, as you would say in English, is accused of the largest case of bribery and fraud in Catalonia's history, bribes in excess of 6.6 million euros. Ferrovial is also used as a case study to teach people in logistics and transportation and procurement what not to do, what contracts you should not enter into, because this is a very fraudulent and criminal organization. In fact, Spaniards say, this company is like a bad movie. We don't want Ferrovial on our soil, which is why they are here in our country and abroad. There are also human rights violations. I've been on the phone with the United Steelworkers Association in Canada, who support the British. There have been protests across England, across Canada, across the world. I don't know if you know right now, but the owner of Ferrovial, Rafael de Pino, was forced to pay 200 million euros to the Spanish Treasury on tax evasion charges. I'm going to talk to you about the source. El País, June 14, 2013. I now have an official document from Barcelona, from the Ministry of Justice, with a royal stamp from the Anti-Corruption and Organized Crime Division. I have the personal number of this man, Emilio Sanchez Uled, who I can call, talk to, and visit in Spain this summer. The prosecutor accuses the Catalan CDC department of receiving 6.6 million in kickbacks. In this 37-page report, he notes, he details how Ferrovial paid these illegal crimes to individuals with sufficient political influence on the agencies in charge of awarding large-scale public contracts. There's enough evidence that Ferrovial paid money to party officials to secure major contracts for the City of Justice and also Barcelona's subway line. I also have the flow chart if you'd like to see how this money was delivered. Does anyone know anything about Barcelona's Palau de la Música, that very, very famous institution? This money, 6.6 million euros, was sent through, as you can see, Ferrovial's right here as the institution. And what it did was it used opaque cash deliveries and disbursements to treasurers. 2 of them, one man died, and the next man, Daniel Osakar, between 2000 and 2007, gave these to the CDC party in Spain for these contracts. They also falsified documents. There were 5 companies that charged
Gilroy, you need to wrap up, please.
Okay, I'll get right on to it. So basically, no falsification of documents, collaboration. Finally, I'm going to just read to you just the Corruption Research Center of Budapest was created in response to a growing need for independent research. They say Ferrero is the main company implicated in this case, are paying commissions in excess of 5 million euros to the political party CDC. Doing so, Ferrero ensured it would be awarded 2 of the most important current contracts in Barcelona: the infrastructure for the Department of Justice, the Catalonia region, and the construction of Line 9 of the underground. Second point, Unite, Britain's biggest union, came to Toronto to protest the ETR 407 owner contract in the blacklisting scandal. They're being supported by some of the biggest unions, including the United Steelworkers Union. Unite in England believes that their person, Frank Morris, was put out of work. He was blacklisted.
Ms. Gilroy, you need to wrap up.
Okay, finally, and I'll just, finally, just the last point here is the owner, Rafael Lupino, had to pay 2 million euros for tax evasion. The money was sent to Holland without paying taxes. I have the direct office number of Emilio Sanchez Pruitt, and I also have the document from Catalonia describing everything if anyone wants to see it.
John Alpine.
Hi, my name is John Robert McAlpine V. I thank you for letting me speak at this meeting. I do recall there being a video on YouTube of a meeting like this where the public was not allowed to speak. That is that's why I'm here today, because I wanted to come to you and speak to you. I'm an employee of Michael Waltrip Racing. I do not represent them officially, but I do have a petition that happens to be signed by 4 NASCAR teams, all talking about their concern with this project. Michael Waltrip Racing, the CFO, signed on this. Hendrick Motorsports, they signed it. Front Row Motorsports in Mooresville, they signed it. JR Motorsports signed it. Kelly Earnhardt signed this. I went to high school with Kelly Earnhardt. This is a very personal matter to me. I'm up here representing my 1-year-old son and 3-year-old daughter. They can't be here to fight for these roads. That's why I'm here. And it shouldn't have come to this. There have been some arguments on the environment. I'm an engineer. I study computer engineering, and I have a master's in business. It's very easy for me to read charts, especially charts that are put out by the government. Traffic that's at a standstill generates 300% of the greenhouse gases of cars moving at, say, 20 miles an hour. Every day today, traffic stops on I-77. Does traffic stop every day on I-85 today? Okay? Okay, but it's not the same, believe me. Okay? Ask anyone in North Mecklenburg. I grew up off exit 33 on I-77. My parents have lived in Mooresville since 1970. That interstate has not been improved since it was built. Can you tell I'm upset? I know how much money they've paid in for years, and I'm having to live with this. This 50-year contract does not look good for my young kids. It's just bad. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate this. I have lots more signatures, including the CEO of Aquesta Bank. These are real businesses with lots of employees. There are 250 at Michael Waltrip. We have trucks that move up and down this interstate, and you talk about choices. These trucks do not have choices. They cannot get into the toll lanes. They do not have a choice. So what do we do when we're sending our cars to the track or when they're coming back? We've got 250 employees waiting on a truck to get back so we can get to work. That's not good for business. And if you want these guys to stick around, you need to listen. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to address everyone here. I appreciate it. I'm a single mom with 2 kids. I run a small business in Cornelius. We have 4 to 5 technicians on the road every day going out on service calls. The result of this toll situation is going to make it so that my guys are going to be paying $4,000 to $5,000 per technician per year, which is going to come straight off our bottom line, which is then going to be passed on to a customer who may already be paying to use the tolls. So really the only people benefiting from this are Centra. I would like to know, I'd like to ask if the gentleman from the NCDOT, would he say everything he just said under oath? Would he say it under oath in a court of law? I don't believe a word from the NCDOT anymore. I'm a citizen. I don't feel like there's any transparency. I feel like we've been shut down and pushed away. Concerns were raised 2 years ago, and there was no representation for us. Nobody wanted us to be part of the process. They just wanted us to go away, suck it up, go along with it, and move on. And in fairness, our officials were also misled because they were told either you do this or you get nothing. We're told either you pay or you get nothing. Can you tell me where the integrity is in that situation for anyone involved? I just want you all to know that this is not going to go away. I don't care if they signed on the bottom line. I don't care if they funded it. It is our taxpayer money. It is our right to pursue this, and we are going to pursue it in every way that we can. This is not going away. And I would like to know what our representatives are going to do to support us through this. I'm a citizen. I'm speaking out. I'm out of my comfort zone. I'm up here in front of all of you, doing everything that I can, and I want to know what you guys are going to do for us. Because this issue is not going away, and we are not going away. There has got to be some sort of action taken on our behalf of small businesses, working parents, single parents, families, the elderly, teenagers, vacationers who just happen to be driving through our state and get on it by accident. I feel like we deserve better, and I feel like if we all work together on this, and you stand by us, and you help us fight this, we will stand by you, and we will be there for you, and we will rally you on, and we will accomplish something.
Michelle, you need to wrap up, please.
Thank you, ma'am. We will accomplish something together. We will improve the process, because as somebody said last night, this isn't a Democratic issue, this isn't a Republican issue, this is a people's issue. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you for letting us come here. Just like Michelle, I'm a regular person. I come representing the middle class. When the Great Recession in 2008 hit, my husband lost his job. We had been living here for 17 years. We worked hard, we saved, we were conservative in every way, but that caught us off guard. He lost his job for 27 months. We struggled, we panicked, we did everything we could to save ourselves, save our kids. Our kids were born here, 3 kids. When it really got desperate, he finally took a job 35 miles away in South Park, North Carolina, and at a 20% cut in pay. We did what we had to do. And we're still struggling to keep up right now. It's not something that goes away very easily. And in the meantime, well, before this all happened, my parents, we wanted our parents to be close by because we wanted to help them and take care of them. I found myself driving them to doctor's appointments downtown in Charlotte, getting tangled up in all sorts of mess at all different times of the day. It's so apparent to me that we are so overlooked up here in Lake Minor. I have 3 kids. I've been saving for college, hoping that they can go. Car insurance is coming up. I'm just a regular person, and there are thousands of me here in Lake Norman, struggling to make it work. We've kept our house. It was always our dream to keep it for when the children get married and come home for Christmas. But I tell you what, I think if this goes through and we have no choice but to probably sell our house before all the construction begins, before we're put to all this extra bridge construction, extra mileage that's now Cintra's demanding. And I'm gonna get out of here because it's horrible living where we live. North Carolina DOT put out a press release 2 weeks ago talking about choices. We're giving you choices. Let me tell you, the toll roads are not a choice like me. We're going to be stuck with the trucks and all the other people going to medical appointments, going to colleges, going to minimum wage jobs on the general purpose lanes. This is not a choice. These toll roads are elitist and not for regular people like me. Thank you.
Chuck, Sue. Chuck here.
Oh. Sorry I had to step out of the room a little bit. All these stories are getting me a little choked up. Been to every one of these meetings. Haven't got choked up with any of them. But after what the NCDOT has done today, you see how they step out of the room when I step up here to talk. After what they've done today, and Pat McCrory, I have gotten a little choked up. I got a little choked up because of these stories. I mean, what you guys are doing is it's criminal. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be ignorant or however. I only got 3 minutes. I can't explain myself, man. What you guys are doing is absolutely ignorant. Mr. McCrory told us. We hear it for, all our representatives. John Bradford's done the thing, Jeff Tarson. Macaulay, you kicked us out of this meeting 2 years ago. 2 years ago, Sarah, you kicked us out. You threw us out without even letting us talk, and you told us, they told us then it was a done deal. And I'm sorry, I've never done a motion like this when speaking. You told us it was a done deal 2 years ago. It wasn't a done deal then, it's not a done deal now. We're going to keep going forward. We aren't going to stop your toll roads. You will not get them, I promise you that. But Mr. McCrory comes out, Bradford comes out, they all come out, they say, well, if crypto, you guys used to be called JUMPO, that's what you called when you kicked us out. If crypto has a resolution, and the resolution passes, Pat McCrory says, I'll reconsider. I don't know what that means, but he says he will reconsider and listen to the people of Cornelius, and Huntersville, Davidson, and Mooresville, and Mecklenburg County Commission, and 95% of the people in this area. And then today you guys come out and say, forget it. Just forget it. That's what you guys came out and said. Just forget it. Go home. It's a done deal. Doesn't matter what you people think. We are your bosses. That's what it sounds like, whether it's your intention or not. I happen to personally feel that that's kind of how, I'm not going to say every one of you at NCDOT feel, but somebody up there definitely feels like you are our masters. And today, in the spirit of James Jack, I say, you are not our masters, and we will have freedom, we will have liberty, and we don't really give a damn what you think.
Our last speaker is Jim Puckett.
Jim Puckett, I follow rules, 216 Greenway, Street, Huntersville, North Carolina. I'm going to talk about tolls, and I've looked into this, and it's here, and I'm going to talk about how this is 29 governments. First, around this table, how many people here live at exit 23 or north? Raise your hand. 5 boards representing 1.5 million people asked for this be delayed. 1.5 million. 260 years ago, 260 years ago, a guy by the name of Jim Puckett wandered down here from Virginia and lived in North Mecklenburg. That was my grandfather, 7th generation. 2 of his descendants signed the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence. It said that government should be responsive to people. That the people should have a say. They should have an impact. They should have some connection with those who rule them. I can talk all night about this project, whether it's a debacle or not, but I am so utterly saddened by this process. I can't tell you. I was elected to office in 1997. And in 1997, I met Velma Leak. Velma Leak and I fought busing at each other. We could not have disagreed more about one subject. But the one thing that we absolutely fundamentally demanded was that she had every chance to state what she wanted to talk about, and she demanded that I have every chance to state what I wanted to talk about. And we went around this county. We reassigned 45,000 kids. We had 7 8-hour-long sessions allowing parents to come speak to us. And for the last 18 years, she's been my friend, because while we rarely agree on policy, we absolutely fundamentally believe that the people have a right to be heard. And I am so sorely disappointed in this government that with 5 boards asking you, you refuse to do that. That's all I have to say.
The next item on our agenda is number 3, the ethics, awareness, and conflict of interest for Mr. Cook.
In accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it is the duty of every board member to avoid conflicts of interest. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest with respect to any matters coming before the board today? If so, please identify the conflict and refrain from any participation in the particular matter involved.
Mr. Cook, I do not see anyone indicating they have a conflict of interest in the agenda. I do. All right. Next item was added, the discussion. Mayor Taylor?
Yeah, I'm all for discussion. The discussion on this item is, quite frankly, it's fine. But I guess in light of the information we received yesterday, that the documents have been signed, it's basically a done deal. What options do we really have other than just having a discussion? I'm a little unclear as to what really the end goal might be here.
And Mayor Taylor, just to, we're on September here, I do like to defer to the jurisdictions that are most closely affected by decisions that we make, and also understand the method by which we go through the process of approving large expenditures like this, large projects, is rather lengthy and very involved and has lots of opportunity for public input. But I just had kept this close tabs on how that conversation had developed, and so I just thought it might be helpful if, to just put it on the table. But again, I defer to the the jurisdictions that are most closely affected.
Is there any other comments?
Sure. I'll illustrate the point. I'm a county commissioner. If we decide to borrow money to build schools, they say, when it's time to build a school, spend the money. We have a groundbreaking. People show up. I'd like a show of hands, elected officials only. How many of you will commit to show up to a groundbreaking for this toll road project? Raise your hand. Elected officials. You'll show up. How many, don't keep them up. Keep them up. How many of you are elected by the people who are driving north on I-77 at 5 o'clock in the afternoon or south at 5 in the afternoon? That's it. How many, what, 3? Out of this whole body?
How do you know whether they vote for you or not?
No, I'm saying how many people are that's your electorate, okay? That's your electorate. The problem is we have this huge body, and we have 3 hands that are willing to stand up and say, yeah, I'm really proud of it, okay? That they want to be associated with it, which, by the way, I'm going to tell you, if I had my picture taken by it, my opponent would use, that would be the only picture you'd see in the campaign against me. And if this organization, at the end of the day, at the end of this long process, we only have 3 or 4 people that are raising their hand on that, then somewhere something went wrong. And I'm not saying that we have to agree to it tonight or whatever, but somewhere in here, I believe that this project started out with very good intentions and by honest and honorable people. And by the way, NCDOT people, I do not feel that you were dishonest with me in any way, shape, or form during any interactions I've ever had with you, our district engineers and our representatives that I've dealt with when I was on Lake Norman, you know, on all the different named planning organizations and stuff. I've always found NCDOT to be very straight up and very forthcoming. But somewhere in here, this project went from being, let's get a good project, and it morphed into, let's get an agreement signed. It went from somewhere this thing, it changed. And when that happened, we went from having an agreement that I think everybody wanted to be a part of, to became an agreement that not too many people want to be associated with. That's why all these organizations are running for the tall grass right now, trying to hide from it, because there's just too many provisions in it now that are distasteful. And so what are we here for? To me, is somewhere we can't let this happen again. No, we can't let this happen again.
If I could be recognized for a second, we're in the discussion mode?
Yes.
Of this agenda, okay. Ken, I appreciate your remarks. I serve on the Board of County Commissioners, Mecklenburg County, have since 2000, and as you know the resolution that the Board of County Commissioners adopted last night, and you're all familiar with it. I did not participate in that vote because I had learned last week that one of my partners, I have 130 partners in my law firm, unbeknownst to me, had just accepted a representation of someone who was potentially going to be in a pension fund that was potentially going to be an investor, but that pension fund has decided not to invest, and so our engagement has ended, and I no longer have conflict. So I was in the odd position last night of not being able to say anything about the project during the discussion about the resolution because I had asked to be excused. But you all know how my board voted, so I think you all know how they feel. I guess what I'd like to do is tell you how I feel. I've been on this board representing, as the representative of the Mecklenburg County Board of Commissioners since 2008, I believe. And this has been a long and winding road. And I hear your objections, I hear your concerns, ma'am, but I don't hear you suggest any alternative. I mean, I think the fact
That's
is,
not true.
let me finish I was listening to you. You have to hear me out, okay? What people want to do is they want to put an end to the P3. They want to end the toll. And they want to go to general purpose lanes. That's what people want. That's the goal of everything that people are asking for, whether it be the delay. I mean, that's the goal. Okay? It's very clear. The consequences explained to us by some dedicated public servants, and the secretary, or the chairman of the board of the NCDOT is sitting right down here to our right, by the way. Doesn't have to be here tonight, doesn't have to ever come to our meetings, but comes religiously because he cares about this region and cares about our improvement. But the consequences of what you want are huge financial penalties and damages. And you know who's going to pay those? The taxpayers. It's my turn to talk here. The taxpayers are going to pay those penalties. You, me, everybody who lives in our district. Believe me, it is going to happen. It's not scare tactics. I work in, I'm a lawyer. I've worked in a lot of areas. I know what contracts happen. I know what happens when you breach a contract. You pay damages. And let me tell you where that money comes from. It comes from your citizens, okay? Now, the alternatives. Let me finish. I get to finish. The only certainty, frankly, the only alternative, there's essentially only one. We go back to square one. We would go back to square one, and it would be a long and a winding road before you get any relief to the continually degrading mobility on this 26-mile stretch of I-77 North. I mean, people have come up with, we will be sitting here years from now still talking about it. And people come up with ideas, oh, we're going to have it in a bond referendum. You have no idea whether it will get in it. You have a General Assembly that's totally at odds about whether we should have one or not. And if you think, I grew up in Buncombe County on a farm, and if you think the people in Buncombe County are going to vote for a bond referendum that is going to put a third of the money into an interstate highway in Mecklenburg County, I have a bridge somewhere that I could sell you. And I am telling you that there are, this is essentially, you know how my board feels. And they spoke loudly last night. I wasn't able to speak. I had nothing to say. My conservative friends on the Board of County Commissioners that I've served on here for many years have told me over and over again, we need to work with the private sector on capital projects. They can deliver them faster, more efficiently. And we went through years of trying to figure out, we're going to get private business to do it. We're going to get them to build our schools. We're going to get them to do our parks. They can do it cheaper, faster. Well, you know what? When you're dealing with the private sector, you are. 3 years from now, you're going to have additional lanes on I-77. But let me tell you something. You cannot get private businesses to do something without negotiating and without providing. It's a risk and reward. And this is one of the first true public-private operations and capital projects that I think has a chance of working. We went through 2-3 years of actually happening. I think 3 years from now you'll see this project completed. I think if you pull the plug on it, you'll be here 3 years from now still talking about it. And one last thing, and then I will end. And it was sort of like a kangaroo court last night because all my board heard from was the opponents. And it was basically the same group of 8-10 people who spoke tonight. There was no one there to present anything like what was presented tonight by the representatives of NCDOT. And I have a lot of my colleagues who talk about jobs. They talk about jobs, and they want jobs, and they want more jobs. They want them now. And they want them for people who can do construction work, who can drive trucks. And let me tell you something. This is going to create a lot of jobs in a hurry. And that money is going to come back into this community, and it's going to be spent And it's going to help this economy a great deal over the course of the next 3 years. So, you know where my board stands, and you now know where I stand and why I stand where I do. Thank you.
Are there any delegates that haven't spoken with you?
Just one additional thought. You know how my board voted as well. It wasn't a tough decision for us to do that either. But moving forward, it's happened, the close is in place. You know, maybe it gets stopped, maybe not. I don't know the answer to that. But I think we've got to examine as a group and as a board, you know, where do we go from here? We were in economic times back in 2007, 2008. I'm a banker. I lived it. It wasn't good. It wasn't pleasant. Where limited options were given to a good group of people that did what they thought was the right thing at that time. But times change. This is 2015. Bond markets are different. Options are more plentiful. And how do we adjust for that in the future? Because it will happen again. Economic adjustments occur every so often. It's just a fact of life. And I think we've got to figure out that the next time around, you know, how do we do a better job in adjusting to those economic peaks and valleys that will occur in this environment. I think it's a hard question, but I think as we move ahead as a board and as a DOT and as a state, we've got to think about those kind of things and figure out how we deal with them. So that's our office.
Any other gentlemen?
Well, I would like to address this briefly because 58% of this project is going to be inside the Charlotte city limits. And my board has not taken a vote on this. In fact, the vote from the Charlotte City Council since I think the inception of this project has been to move and proceed with a P3 project that would provide us more options as well as create an integrated transportation system.
I'll put my name next to his proudly at any time and stand behind everything that was part of that presentation this evening. But the broader message to me is somehow we've got to find a better way to have a better dialogue. We've got to have a way to, and I think when we talk about future P3s, which we have to talk about, we're going to have to talk about the process to make sure that we all fundamentally understand the principles. There is going to be a problem if somebody fails to complete the contract. That's going to be in every contract. There are consequences if you breach. But if we talk more about that, make sure that that's clearly understood. There's going to be compensation of that. This is a protected revenue. I'm in the real estate business. If you're going to lease space to Walmart, Walmart's going to say, Target's not coming in here. That's the essence of what that type of concept is about. But when we look at the challenges that we face, when the gentleman that talked about the NASCAR trucks and the person who talked about they can't get to the daycare for their child, and Vince talked about the 2007 Committee of 21. Committee of 21 was a Mecklenburg County focused roads only concept to focus on where are we. In 2007, the identified needs were $12 billion short for Mecklenburg County alone. $12 billion. That's almost 10 years ago. And we concluded maybe we could get a half-cent sales tax, and that would cover 20% of the gap. And that's why tolling was mentioned as a potential source to help fill more of the gap. But the executive summary said, absent a solution, we will see catastrophic failure. Those are our words. Catastrophic failure in our transportation system globally. That's why we have to look at things like P3s. And that's why we've got to get better, to have better conversations, better understanding of what they're about. When we look at Commissioner Clark, when he talked about the leverage opportunity, $95 million state money to get $500 million of debt and equity. That's the kind of leverage we have to try and address the transportation problem we have. But there's a fundamental disconnect between what happens if somehow we could magically tear this contract up. And Commissioner Clark talked about it, Mr. Johnson talked about it. It's not general purpose lanes happening. They don't. This is a grandfathered contract. This is pre-STI. This has amazing elements to it. The bonus money, incentive money,
This brings almost $800 million into this corridor.
People who are supposed to come up with solutions to this problem. Next, we've got to have a better way, because some of these penalties that you say, oh, we'll have to pay them. I didn't vote on that. Who made those up? And maybe that needs to, those things need to be more open. And I understand people aren't going to invest capital unless they can get a return. And a lot of the premise that's been made, I'm not arguing with. I'm just saying, right now, a lot of people are running away, and if we do it right, if we do it better, then when you get to the end, people want to get the picture instead of doing what we just saw here recently, which is lots of people voting to get away. And so we got some, there's some lessons to be learned here.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Mr. Motion?
Comment, please, because I think you brings up a very valid point. I brought up a concern about the penalties that were described. My question is, back in May 2014, when this board acknowledged that our decision was to go forward with this, were those penalties identified in the draft that we had for review? Because we would have been better off discussing that back in May 2014 and resolving it then than having the discussion tonight, which is too late. So I would ask that the board, in the future, that if we're going to pass a resolution, it ought to be on the final contract. It's not something that morphs after we nod our head. It's the right thing to do. One other thing that concerns me is my understanding the contract was supposed to be signed on the 28th, but yet it was signed on the 19th. Well, that's kind of a commitment to our public, and so therefore, we need to be careful with that. I mean, we're being chastised for a contract being signed early, and I think rightfully so. If we tell our public that we're going to do something on a certain time frame, they have a right to protest and disagree with us and go through due process for the concerns of it. And to cut that short, I think is shortchanging our public.
Madam Chair, may I just say that I appreciate the board's indulgence in having this conversation.
Yes. The upcoming items have already been discussed. Is there a motion to adjourn? I've heard a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
You're all a bunch of criminals, and you're all going to lose all of your elections. Ms. Bai, is there a reason that you guys didn't vote on the resolution?
There was no motion made for a resolution.
Why wasn't there?
I don't know.
Okay. Hey, 1 second. Woody, is there a reason you didn't make the resolution tonight? Bring it forward?
Contract's closed.
So you didn't want to stop the toll roads on I-77 that you just voted. You just voted for a resolution up in Cornelius, right? And you're running for Cornelius mayor, but you didn't want to bring forward that resolution tonight?
The project's closed.
But you could have brought forward the resolution, correct? You could have brought it forward. We could have had a vote on it, correct?
I wouldn't have.
Well, you could have brought it forward. You didn't want to bring it forward, right? You didn't want to bring it forward? Ms. McCauley, is there a reason you let us actually speak tonight instead of kicking us out like you did 2 years ago?
Because you behaved yourselves tonight. You didn't act like people that had come to tear up the group. If you go back and look at your unedited video that you edited. Wait a minute, let me finish. You asked me a question.
Well, we didn't edit nothing.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
Goodbye. So I was just wanting to ask a question, like, do you support the tolls? Do you support these tolls, Ms. McCauley? And are you running for re-election? Are you seeking re-election?
I don't know.
You don't know yet?
I don't know.
Are you happy that the tolls will be going in?
Yes, I am.
You're excited about the tolls?
I am, yes.
Very excited about that 50-year contract? Very good. Thank you, Ms. McCauley. I appreciate that.
Now go jump in a lake.
Oh, go jump in a lake? Did you really just tell me to go jump in a lake?
I did.
Why did you tell me to go jump in a lake? Why would you tell me to jump in a lake, Miss McCauley? That's not very professional. I'm a regular everyday person. You kicked us out of here 2 years ago. No, I'm allowed to record in here. Don't grab my video camera. That's assault. Why would you do something like that? You threw us out of here 2 years ago. Now you just tell me to jump in a lake and you grab my tripod? That is not very professional, ma'am. That's not very professional. Would you like to apologize to me? No? I'm simply asking questions of an elected representative.
Good night.
Dumont, is that law firm Campbell, Edwards, and Conroy?
No.
It's not?
No.
What? Do you mind mentioning what law firm it was?
Pardon?
Do you mind mentioning what law firm it was?
I work for a law firm called Moore and Van Allen.
I know that one. I'm saying the investor from Massachusetts.
I have no idea who they are.
Oh, okay. Because are you aware of Campbell, Edwards, and Conroy? Huge law firm?
I've never heard of them. I'm sorry.
Okay. It's Tom Tillis's wife's father's law firm. That's why I was
Sorry,
asking.
I've never heard of them. Where are they?
Massachusetts, like you were
What
saying.
do they do?
They have represented Parsons Brinkerhoff. They've represented some of these other big P3 companies.
What's their name again?
Campbell, Edwards, and Conroy.
I'll have to look them up. I've never heard of them.
Oh, I mean, they're one of the biggest law firms in the world.
I guess I'm ignorant. I've never heard of them.
Okay.
They were very wise not to please.
I've never heard of them.
Very good. Hello.
Are you filming?
Yes, I am. I was wondering if you were happy about the deal to go through on the I-77 toll road project?
Hey, Chuck. We're not going to talk on camera about this. How are you with your GoFundMe page?
Oh, it's going good. I don't have the support of Parsons Brinkerhoff or anybody like that.
Do you find that really works, the GoFundMe?
Not really.
Hasn't it been, it's not been very successful?
You get enough to kind of supplement taking a day off here or a day off
How
there.
do you get the word out about that?
Facebook, just Facebook,
Just Facebook?
Yeah.
Well, you're doing pretty good. I don't
Thank
know
you.
how I found out, but I found out, so
Thank
that's good.
you.
We're not connected.
I'm glad. I know you should accept my friend request. Are you happy about the tolls, though? No? Not happy about the tolls? Warren Cooksey, remember when you told me it was the bride money? They're calling it like bonus funds now instead of bride money. How you been, Warren? Are you going to be at the NCDOT convention, the toll road convention? Republican Party convention? We just don't want toll roads, that's all, man. That's it. We just really don't want the tolls. Close it and break that camera? Oh, from the NCDOT zone, wow. Close it and break that camera. Oh my gosh. Jeez, I mean, you guys are like violent. It's like you are willing to kill for these toll roads or something. It was 5 years ago. Okay, folks, it's Chuck Suter, ConstitutionalWar.org. The fight does not end tonight. Here at the Mecklenburg, used to be JUMPO, crypto meeting, I've been threatened with violence. These guys have called us liars. They've said everything wrong in the book. But here's the great news. These toll roads have been stopped after financial closes before. Here's the key. Every single one of these bastards that voted for these toll roads needs to be thrown out of office. And that's where you come in. You make sure that these guys lose their elections. I'm literally, this is my friend here, but I'm looking over my shoulder because one of the NCDOT guys said he wanted to bust my camera. There was other veiled threats made throughout the day. These guys are literally like a bunch of mobsters. So donate at ConstitutionalWar.org, man. I don't know, maybe these guys will kill me sooner or later. But, look, it's not over until we win.